too early to start panicking.
I'm against those who are saying Coach Mangoba must be fired just for losing those 2 matches. And these are the same people, Mr. Mara, who always brand themselves as people who are fixing the local football. But how can you fix the local football, Mr. Marawa, if you are advocating a local coach just to be fired after losing 2 matches?
Sundowns is too big for him. He will be likely to start the season as the head coach of Sundowns.
Oh, because of the MTN8 performance.
Sanibona, uhlophe lo angile. Lo myelezo ngubhekisela kumpano uRobert Mara Madlubuti. Kwethu bengicela ukuthumela ofezela bakho lapha. La Sundowns. Ungicelele kwethu ukuthi abavale kahle phela isicapha mase bephuma lapha ku MTN8. Bangagangaza isicapha ngale ndlela. Umuntu bese phuma avale isicapha hambe.
Robert Marawa, live on 947. Vuma FM, Rise FM, and Sowetan Live. #MSW.
All right, the issue of gambling in sport has been on the cards for a number of minutes now. Hey, we've been on it in the first half of the show. We decided, you know what, we're going to drag this on onto more of you as listeners listening onto the show right now to find out how close you are to being addicted to sports gambling, especially because it seems to be pretty prevalent on many fronts, and that is why we have in studio with us Sibongile Simelane-Quntana, who is SARGF Executive Director. And also you can follow some of what's happening in studio on the YouTube channel. We are live now on the YouTube channel, so make sure that you do not lose sight of what has been spoken about. And wow, Sibongile, it's been such a fascinating conversation in that first half of the show. But as we start to build the body and start to wind down on it, somebody who might not know that they are addicted, but they are there ways then to deal with that person? And how would you deal with that person to ensure that they overcome it so that they get back into what you call social gambling?
The signs are there. Remember, I mentioned that it's all about your behavior.
Yeah.
And you will know that I'm a chubby person, I'm a talkative person. Now, all of a sudden, I start frequenting a certain site, and I talk about it most of the time. There is nothing that I don't talk about that I don't say, you know what, I want to watch a Manchester and Liverpool game. You know, I am certain that Manchester is going to win, even though you know that they're not going to win. You know, then your behavior starts changing because it's all about your behavior. You start feeling down, feeling sad, feeling agitated most of the time. You used to have money, excess money, you know. Now you are broke. Sure. So there are signs. And once you start developing or you're deviating from your normal behavior that we know, and we know that you are actually interested into gambling, that deviation, it's a clear sign that you are actually having a problem. Now, it's either as an individual, you acknowledge that you've got a problem, you call our toll-free line. You come to us and say, I need help. And we give you help free of charge. You don't pay a cent because the operators, they are actually contributing towards us ensuring that, number one, we make the public aware about the dangers of gambling. And we run a lot of education programs actually throughout the country. And that those who unfortunately found themselves addicted, we then treat them. And I'm going to talk about the statistics, Rob, because I think it all comes down to numbers.
Yeah.
And why I'm saying I want to reduce it to numbers, because if in 2019, when we went down into lockdown, I only had in my data 124 people that said that they are addicted to online betting.
124?
Yeah,
only.
just 124 in 2019.
Okay.
Now, we were on lockdown, which had an impact on people now transitioning from your brick and mortar, gambling into more of an online, Now, 2020, I've got 1,264 people. Now, do we have a problem or do we not have a problem? If there's no significant increase, then we don't have a problem.
Yeah.
But once we see a significant increase, then it means that we need to start having a different conversation. What are we doing to curb? Let me tell you something. Operators in South Africa have got what we call know your customer. They've got warning signs, and whenever they see that somebody, they are deviating from their normal, betting trend, they intervene. But because we're dealing with a behavior that accumulates over time, by the time anyone intervenes, it's a little bit too late.
Yeah. And what's fascinating right now is the growing trend of the sports betting during the high-profile events. We've just come out of the Olympic Games.
Yeah.
Now we currently have the Paralympic Games, international standard games that are there. There's MTN8, there's the Derby game, there's all sorts that builds up. But I did not even know that the extent, especially within the Olympics, is as crazy as it's been, despite the IOC wanting and trying to clamp down on all of this. So when we look at this Paris Games that have just happened and concluded now, do we have any facts around how involved people were on a global scale and even here in South Africa?
We don't have a problem up until somebody brings it to light.
Yeah.
We know that people have been betting, but we don't know the extent. It's the same way as we didn't know the prevalence of match fixing during rugby up until people were found out.
And in cricket. You
Yeah.
see, that's why the next guest that's coming up, he was involved not in match fixing, he was involved in uncovering something that was happening on the field when the Australians were tampering with the ball. It made headlines right around the world. So you touch on something that is quite important, which is done, Hansi Cronje.
But why?
Had a
Why?
match
Ask yourself
fixing
why.
situation.
Because there are people who are betting. It's like in
It was
boxing.
the bookmakers
Yes,
that were in charge.
yes.
Yeah.
But those are bookies that unscrupulous, because they then, it end up becoming a crime, know. And the sports, it's innocent itself. It's bringing the thrill.
Yeah.
But people, they bring in all the negative aspect of it. Now, aspect of that is people becoming addicted, which is where we come in as the SRGF. And honestly speaking, Rob, I will say that there is no one that wakes up and say, I want to have problem gambling. It's a process, The DSM-5 says that you should have been experiencing the symptoms at least over 12 months. Personally, I say 12 months is a long time for anyone to actually ask for help, And we need to say, what do we do as a country? We are doing enough, but is our enough enough?
And that's where the irony comes in, because you look at sporting federations, you look at sporting associations, you look at a SASCOG. I mean, they've been involved with sending athletes to the Olympic Games. And who are the first people that they thank in terms of providing the money for the athletes? They thank the National Lotteries Board. National Lotteries Board has been doing that not only for South Africa, but for the likes of Australia, for them to have the kind of sporting codes excelling in the manner that they do. So isn't that part of the irony to say we want people not to be irresponsible with gambling, but hey, we also rely on those entities to provide money for us to produce elite athletes?
You can call it a contradiction right there. It is a contradiction. And unfortunately, it's the reality that we live in. Talking about lotteries, and you actually ask yourself, where do all these millions come from? People that are buying lottery tickets. Now, there's enough evidence that tells people that, again, I'm going to stress on this because data shows us the people that are mostly affected are the less affluent. Are people that cent should actually be spent on something else. Now, why? Why? We are the most unequal society in South Africa. Our Gini coefficient is very high. Now, people are trying to make ends meet. but they are making the ends meet in a wrong way.
But
And
now,
I don't want us to play a blame game here,
Yeah,
Rob,
sure.
for two reasons. One, operators, they don't want anybody to suffer the consequences of irresponsible gambling. They are business people. They want to make money. And the second reason is that look at our economy. People are desperate. And a person that is desperate, what do? They resolve into desperate measures.
hold on, because there's a question.
Mr. Marawa, I can hear and I'm hearing what the lady is raising, the point in terms of addiction and wiseness. But in terms of the players themselves, how much of a workshop is it done on them in terms of gambling? Because now if you check, the sports that are playing, it's influenced by the outcome of what they do on the field. They themselves, how much of a training or how much of a what can we call it, maybe lessons that they've been taught when it comes to gambling? How is it that they need to handle themselves? Because they can easily, we have seen it happen in different leagues, in overseas leagues, where you get players being suspended because of gambling and all those things. So in terms of that, how is it that it's been addressed on players, the issue of gambling? Are there any workshop being given to players on how this issue of gambling going to affect them also? It's Donald and Nelspred, Barop.
Donald and Nelspred, thank you very much. A key question is that before the fans and before the gamblers, there's a professional players. And we've seen professional players even before the end of last season, locally, that were caught in a similar situation. And just the irony again, this very afternoon, the official launch of the Betway Premiership, Premier Soccer League and Betway coming into partnership. And Donald's asking a valid question. How much of that we call workshops will the players be exposed to so that they themselves are not guilty of a sudden penalty or anything of that nature?
That's a difficult one. And I think as an organization, we reach out to a public at large. We don't segment to say that we will focus on these individuals. But I think this is a challenge that you need to think about, because you are right. We've seen our soccer players, being caught up in gambling and having financial difficulty. And some of them actually losing their lives because
Correct.
of gambling, And what I hate the most about the work that we do, we always come in when it's a little bit too late.
Hence I say, now that it's early, I don't know what your link is with the football fraternity to say, hi, this is who we are, this is what we do. We would like to be a part of this in educating.
I actually want the hero. There's a minister, there's a new minister in town, there's a new sheriff in town.
Oh, yes.
I want the minister to actually carry the flag of responsible gambling. I believe that if we have an ambassador at that level that can advocate for responsible gambling, somebody as passionate as about, I want to throw a challenge to the minister and say, we've got a problem in our country. Can you advocate for responsible gambling? You are the Minister of Sports, Arts and Culture. And sports is in our blood. There you go. It's in the blood.
It is.
Sports is in our blood.
And so does gambling become
Yes.
part of some people's blood. And you don't want that.
We don't want that. We want people to enjoy the game, to enjoy the thrill of the game. We don't want people to become addicted, because guess what? We want the industry to continue contributing to the country, creating jobs and making sure that they contribute to the building of our infrastructure. And we can't do that if there are people that are suffering.
So he's probably listening, the Minister of Sports, Arts and Culture. When would you like to meet him?
Now.
Good evening, Mr. Rob. It's Hulfelang here, and good evening to the MSW shoulders, and good evening to your guest there. Very, very insightful conversation, very eye-opening conversation, and one that really, really does need to happen because of the importance of how gambling has at times a negative impact, especially when it comes to, the financial aspect and the mental aspect. If someone comes to you, makes a conscious decision to come to you, the SARGF, and pleads to you for help, After how long would you think it would take for that particular person to go through a specific, if I can say, rehab program, based on, your findings as to which type of, if I can say, level gambler is he on? How long would a person take on a certain rehab program? That's what I want to find out from you, madam. Great show as always. Thanks.
Thank you, Hulufulang. Important one, Sibongile.
Okay, so we've got two types of people that we actually assist. We've got the people that we call problem gamblers. Mm-hmm. These are the individuals that they admit that they've got a problem, and they have 8 sessions. We give them 8 sessions in total. Intensive psychometric therapy that they go through. Mm. Then you've got individuals that ban themselves through the National Gambling Act. It makes provisions, by the way. The minister must come and advocate for self-exclusion because it helps. It gives people, it's a legal instrument that gives people a relief to be away from gambling whilst they attend to their issues and they come for treatment. So individuals that have banned themselves, using the legal instrument, they attend 4 sessions. Now, the commitment that you show into the program, it's only your therapist that will say, you know what, you have reached this milestone. Me, as Sibongile, I can't do that. Now, when it comes to self-exclusion, we actually write the upliftment letters because you are banned from gambling. Mm-hmm. You have to receive counseling. Now, for you to be readmitted back, we need to write upliftment letters. Our upliftment letters are very clear. It's either you've got insight into your problem or you don't. If we recommend to the gambling boards that you don't have insight to the extent of your gambling, they don't uplift your ban. And if we say you understand that it has created impact and you are ready to continue being a responsible gambler, they let you play. Now, here's the problem, is the relapse.
Hey, let's pause there. We're going to need to have a relapse of this show at some point, maybe arguably with the minister. I think with all due respect, it needs that conversation. And I'm looking at social media and people are like, wow, fascinated by so many different aspects of what you've spoken about here. Where can people reach you? Very quickly, I am out of time. Okay,
we've got a toll-free line, 0800 006 008. Or they can send us a WhatsApp, 076 675 0710.
Yeah, I know. Wits helps. All those numbers coming off the top of your head, not even reading. Yay! You know what, guys? Important conversations like these are needed. SARGF Executive Director, that's Sibongile Simelane-Quntana, our guest here tonight. Ma'am, thank you so much indeed for giving
us
so much valuable information. Truly appreciate it.
Thank you.
#MSW live now on 947 Vuma FM, Rise FM, and Soweto Live at the same time. #MSW.
You know it's game on with Hollywood Bets this soccer season. Stand to win your share of 2 million rand in prizes. Get 10 rand or more on any soccer fixture. Get Diski Passion in the palm of your hand. Aziz Shege, let's play. T's and C's apply.
Hollywood Sportsbook is a licensed betting operator. Hollywood Bet supports responsible gambling. No persons under the age of 18 years are permitted to gamble. Winners know when to stop. South African Responsible Gambling Foundation toll-free counselling line 0800 006 008 or WhatsApp help to 076 675 0710.
The Toyota Corolla hatch has everything you'd want from your car. Style, sportiness, and now savings. For only $7,499 per month until 30 September, you can get it all in the Toyota Corolla Hatch 1.8 XS Hybrid with Future Drive. Head to your closest dealer to get the offer or visit toyota.co.za/offers. Future Drive offer available through Toyota Financial Services. Authorized Financial Services FSP number 7454 and registered credit provider NCRCP 62. T's and C's apply.
Dear Journal, day 2981 of trying to be an adult. I couldn't wait to move into my own place and start decorating. Then I realized how expensive it is to move into your own place and start decorating. Anyways, I'm super into minimalism now.
Got evicted from the family home? Get covered at pineapple.co.za. It's like 570 Rand a month, so it's 100% the insurance for you. Underwritten by Old Mutual Alternative Risk Transfer Insurer Limited, licensed non-life insurer and authorized FSP. Premiums are risk profile dependent.
Need a loan? Pay for what you need when you need it with a personal loan from Nedbank. And if you open a My Goals Plus or My Goals Premium account, you can enjoy 200 Rand cashback every month for the duration of your loan. That's 200 Rand every month to buy extra groceries or save for a rainy day. Visit nedbank.co.za and join the bank that's best for your loans. See money differently. Nedbank. We're a licensed FSP and registered credit provider. T's and C's apply.
Wish big and win big with this double deal. Get 2 Huawei Nova Y62 smartphones plus a Watch Band 9 on an Elevate 2 36-month contract for only 499 Rand per month. And stand a chance to win 100,000 Rands towards your wish. Go in store or call 084145. Valid until 5 September. T's and C's apply. Nothing should stop you. Now on SA's best network. Switch to C. Cell C.
Are you a seeker of impact that's drawn to spaces that challenge you? It's time to embrace the places where our decisions matter and every step shapes the future. It's time to be the impact with the power of innovation and progress, all while surrounded by a community that supports, inspires, and turns ideas into reality. Be the impact for good. Apply now at Wits University. Shape the future. Visit wits.ac.za for more information.
Previously on Marawa Sports Worldwide.
The great victory of the Springboks. The Blue Bulls Special Project Manager, Thando Manana, well, he watched the game.
We promise you an epic, and these two teams have delivered.
New Zealand on any other given day would have run with it home, leading by 10 points, but they failed to finish the game, something that's new. The coach, All Black coach, Razor, will learn from that. But for South Africa, I think this was good. Certainly not their best performance by a mile. I think both teams going into Cape Town would want to look at their mistakes and rectify them in training and select the best possible squad.
It's a bit, they're close to the line.
Hashtag MSW. Hashtag MSW.
All right, lots of your reaction coming through on social media. Thank you so much indeed. A very important conversation we've just closed off. But I think another important one we're just about to open. As I said, that we are live on Vuma FM, Rise FM, Sowetan Live. We're live on the DSTV platform. We're also live on the YouTube channel. So wherever you want to catch us, you can do that. I'll have a quiz, man. If you don't know this man, then you cannot be a sportscaster in this country. If you don't know him, you can't be a sportscaster. I mean, he is one of South Africa's most experienced, most respected producers with over 30 years in broadcasting. He's covered 4 soccer World Cups. He's covered 4 rugby and cricket World Cups, the Olympic Games, Commonwealth Games, the Champions League football. I mean, he was instrumental in SuperSport's plan for the South African Premier Soccer League when the company bought the television rights for the competition. Now, despite the glamour, his work involves very, very long hours of perseverance, passion, dedication. It's an absolute pleasure, ladies and gentlemen, to welcome the multi-award-winning, legendary Alvin Naicker into the studio. Hey, you see all those fans there, boss.
Well, Rob, I'm humbled. I think, firstly, I just want to say welcome to your viewers. Good evening. To your listeners as well on the radio. Yeah. I just want to be honest and upfront with you that I've never been to a radio studio in my 37 years of broadcasting.
Nobody has called you to say, Alvin, you've done amazing work. How do you do it, etc. You've never had that opportunity.
Well, I think you've called me a few times.
Yeah, you've said no to me a few times.
Well, I didn't really. Yeah. The diaries didn't clash a lot.
You said no because of how busy you were.
But also I thought video killed a radio star in the 80s. So I was trying to recover from that.
Okay.
You've convinced me today that actually there's no more radio and there's no more video. It's amalgamated together. And this is a true reflection of it. We're in a new world now.
No, we are. And that's the beauty about it, because as we chat, people are watching and commenting on the YouTube channel.
Yes.
People are sitting somewhere listening to it on the DSTV platform. People are driving and they're able to listen. They're listening on Sowetan Live. They're anywhere and everywhere around the world. That's why a lot of the callers come through from anywhere around the world. And that is where you've been, around the world. I mean, can you believe it? You were saying to me, what is it now, 30, how many years?
On Sunday was 37 years. 1st of September 1988, I started in television, in broadcasting. And on Saturday, I did the All Blacks game. So for me, it was quite an emotional situation of that journey. And working, actually, I have to correct you, I worked on every World Cup since 95.
That is crazy. Everything that's been a World
directly
Cup.
And indirectly, yeah, correct. But the one story I have to tell you that, which before I forget, my biggest victory as a human being and in television and collectively as a South African broadcaster, I think for me personally, apart from, and I'll come to other sporting events, in 2019, South Africa won the World Cup in Japan with Siya Kolisi as a captain. I don't think we just won on the field. I think that we won as a nation of broadcasters behind the scenes. For the first time outside South Africa, we produced a World Cup with an entire South African team. We were part of the World Feed production. We only got to direct one South Africa match or produce one game, but we did 12 games in Japan across the country with more than 45 South African crew. We had the youngest crew, the most diverse, both from a diversity perspective in color and gender. And I must say that HBS, who produced Football World Cups and the Rugby World Cup, were most impressed in terms of how we represented our country. So we felt that we won both on the field and off the field.
But what does that recognition come from? Because we're seeing it at a more global level. And you talk about what happens behind the scenes, which is why we've brought you here, because you're the preeminent broadcaster, I must say, with years under your belt. I mean, when you step forward, here's this young kid coming through from KZN, from Chatsworth, who maybe wanted to be a DJ, probably DJ'd at some point, you know, worked in a video lab, and then all of a sudden, when that light switched on and you got to meet your passion, what was that like?
So I got to correct you on the DJ part, right?
Yeah.
I was actually not the DJ. I was actually the barman. But they got me to DJ after midnight so the crowd could leave. Right? So, but when they listen to my music now, I reckon, bless his cotton socks, the late Ed Zondi,
yes,
he'd respect me on my music choice. Don't worry.
All right.
One day.
So the Barry Whites of this world, the
correct.
Temptations.
Yeah, the OJs and the Spinners and all those guys. But and I'm glad that you mentioned Chatsworth because I'm proud of my roots, where I come from. Humble backgrounds. I'm of a family of 7 children. My dad, at that time, what we call was a lorry driver. Yeah. Now it's a truck driver. And worked very hard. And he imposed that on us in terms of how we believed in the work culture. And at the same time, how we level with society.
Sure.
But most importantly, the schooling that we had. Great teachers, great students. And we just got it together.
Yeah.
Then, obviously, the work part. A lot of people are here now as young people say, I'm taking a gap year. I also had a gap year. Mine was forced. I couldn't afford to study. So I was a kid and I had a kid. And then I decided on the time I had a kid that my journey is going to be different.
Yeah.
Everything I do for the rest of my life is going to be
central to the human being who
correct.
now lives. Yeah.
Correct. And that's where it started. And then, long story cut short, 1988, I came up to Johannesburg, thanks to my late brother. Got me out of the nightclub, dragged me up to Johannesburg. Within 2 months, I got a job at the video lab.
But how did you manage that, though? Because was that something itching within you to say you want to be closer to this television space?
No, not at all, actually. Truth be told, I actually was a storeman. I used to pack the tapes in the library.
VHS?
Well, no. Well, it used to be 1-inch tapes, which hopefully I can, when I do my social media site, I'll get my daughter to post what a 1-inch tape looks like. And I've seen the evolution of broadcasting from analog to digital and in many different spheres, you know, from vinyl to where we are now. I've seen all of it.
But is a lot of this, Alvin, a self-taught journey? Because I think you find a lot of people saying, how did you learn to be so good? How did you learn to be so good that international broadcasters call you and say, there is an SA 20, please come and direct? Or like you said, this past weekend, here's an international test, the All Blacks versus the Springboks, one of the biggest games in global sport. please come and direct. And you are now in charge of such a big audience. But the learnership came from where?
So when I was at Video Lab and I got into sport, it was 1990. I did my first rugby game, and it was a real, baptism of fire at Loftus. Now, can you imagine a young Indian guy from Chatsworth going to Loftus with the stash, and I had a bit of a mop.
Yes.
And I'm de-rigging afterwards, pulling cables, and I get abused verbally, and all I did was look up and smile and wave my hand to the guys, and they took a liking to me. So then, but the journey continued from there. But rugby, we only did one game a week back in the day because, it wasn't even Super Sport, it was Mnet.
Yeah.
We did one game a week. And then the journey, it evolved and we continued. And in the 90s, satellite TV started. And I left my job at the Video Lab and I decided sport is where I want to go. And it's such a long story that I don't know if the show is long enough, but I can tell you in a very short space of time that I decided to go into cricket mainly because I never played cricket. Everyone assumes that, you're Indian, you like cricket.
Yeah.
I'm actually a soccer fan, a football fan. I grew
up.
Man
United fan.
Oh, exactly. Yeah. There's only one United, right? And okay, we'll forget about Sunday's result.
But United at the moment. Yeah.
But when I got into cricket, it was economics. I realized that there's a 4-day game and there's a 1-day game in a week. There's 5 days of work. And then if you multiply that by 4, it's 20 days of work. And I was like, wow, this works. One game of rugby a week doesn't really pay your bills.
Yes. It's a once-off for you. Yeah.
Correct. And then we continued working. But then I had on one day, I do 3 different gigs, freelancing and trying to work as hard as possible and build my name in the industry. But you got to remember, it was the 80s right into the mid-90s, till Nelson Mandela came out of jail.
Yeah.
And we got our democracy. When you're working in that period of time, you're going to have to prove to yourself and to your colleagues around you, and you are being judged on every single time you're going to do a job, that this is as good as your last gig as a freelancer.
Because directing, again, when you've got to then know cricket, Alvin, means that you have to know the players in as much as anybody and everybody else does. Because when you make a call, camera 13, cut to so-and-so, you're anticipating when you have to do now a rugby game. Completely different game, but also you got to know the players. Otherwise, imagine if you don't know who's who in the zoo. And then all of a sudden, boom, like you've done gazillion times, you've got to do a Soweto Derby or any other game, which is now a football game or IPL. Those are high-level games, but requiring different skills. The homework that you have to do is what? To make it seamless. So that, I remember, you would always emphasize that the broadcast has got to be about storytelling.
Correct.
At the end of the day, there's got to be a story that you tell.
It's all about storytelling.
Tell me the story from the past weekend, what we would have been, because it's still fresh in our minds, so we can relate to what Alvin was trying to tell us who were consuming this game at home.
I think the big story going into the game was, firstly, the first and foremost was the 30 years of democracy and what the game meant to South Africa and world rugby. So the rugby nation globally and what people anticipated based on what had happened at the World Cup final. And these two teams, I mean, if you look at, the last 5 or 6 games, the points difference was very, very, very close. Yeah. So it could go either way. So that was the story going into it. First, it was the democracy. It was South Africa getting its freedom. And I will never forget in 1995, there was a Kiwi commentator. I can't get his name at the top of my head. But every time I direct, when I'm doing the anthem, I always repeat his words to the camera crew. Don't forget the Rainbow Nation. Because in the final, when we won the game in 95, on the world feed commentary, his words was, and it's victory to the Rainbow Nation. Which, if you have a moment in any sport, that is the story that will forever sit for me in my mind. So I always use that line. So the story is the democracy, then it's the rivalry.
Yeah.
But then it's the two teams. On the day, there's a lot happening, right? And then there's the two coaches. Now, a lot of people don't know that, Rassie is actually he's not well. So, but there's a lot of, negative commentary coming from New Zealand, whatever. So that's why I tried to put Rassie in a more positive light in terms of how well is he done to bring a South African squad together over this journey that he's had now with them. And then you look at the Kiwi team, and they've also got a new coach who's been a bit of under pressure. And to be fair to them, they performed very well for 70 minutes.
Yeah.
So my story was mainly in that last 10 minutes. South Africa won the game because they had an extra player on the field. And that was the 60,000 people in the ground. And in South Africa, I always say to people, it's different when you watch Premier League soccer and you watch PSL, when you watch our cricket or you watch our rugby. We show our fans a lot more because we believe that we have a different offering to the world in terms of our diversity and our culture.
And that's why it was one of the first words Francois Pienaar mentioned.
Yeah.
In addressing the victory in 1995 was, we're over 60 million now, but then it was probably to the 45 million South Africans that are there watching at home, but also those that have jam-packed into Ellis Park. So you felt that even now, so remember now, the Rainbow Nation has almost become a truer version of it. When it was 1995, it was just Chester Williams, who was the only person who was of dark complexion, who was on the field. And only maybe...
He was behind the goalpost on the drop goal, so no one could see him on the photo.
The ball obscured him at some point.
Yeah, correct.
And then there were just little clumpy of kids that were there, which intentionally the direction was showcase that this is maybe potentially the beginning of a Rainbow Nation. But
absolutely.
Saturday, that now is completely different because so many more kids feel the need with their parents to go to a rugby game.
Absolutely. And I mean, if you look at when we cover the anthem in South Africa compared to most other countries, we try not to copy what other people do. Yeah. We as a team, when I talk about we, I don't work on my own. There's a plethora of people behind me, and it's about 80 people that contribute to the end goal. But everyone understands the drive. I'm just the guy that puts it together as the conductor of this orchestra. But there's a lot of people that contribute. One camera person or one camera lady giving you the shot of that one story, whether it's a little girl blaring out the anthem in whatever vernacular he or she wants to sing. That for me is what grabs me. And when I'm directing the anthem, it's very emotional for me. Sometimes I actually get caught up in the moment. I was saying to a friend of mine the other day, I actually don't sing the anthem because I'm always directing the anthem. And it does grab me, but I feel like it's when you see it, there's no better country to be in than it's South Africa. And I think sport unifies us in many different spheres, not just on the playing field, not in the stadiums as fans, even for us as colleagues working in the industry.
And I got to correct you there, man. Alvin, you make it sound like it's little child's play. I have to emphasize that people have not been to an outside broadcast van and understand the enormity of what one human being who is called a director has got to do in bringing sanity to that. He calls himself a conductor, and it's exactly that. You're conducting the traffic of everything that is happening that you see and don't see. He's able to see beforehand. It gets to call it up. How many cameras were there, by the way?
So we had 36 cameras on Saturday. That's excluding the drone cameras. So about 37, yeah.
So listen, guys, we got 2 eyes. This man's got 37.
#MSW live now on 947 Vuma FM, Rise FM, and Soweto Live at the same time. #MSW.
Register now at lottostar.co.za and unlock 100 free spins. Bet on over 650 games with payouts of up to 75 million rand. We've made over 12,000 millionaires this year alone. Don't miss out. Register now and claim your hot LottoStar free slot spins. LottoStar, your world of live games.
LottoStar is licensed by the Mpumalanga Economic Regulator. No under 18s. NRGP 0800 00688. T's and C's apply. All games are fixed odds betting events.
At Specsavers, we're committed to offering affordable and professional eye care. That's why we're offering 1,500 Rand worth of savings with our winter promotion. Get a free frame up to the value of 1,500 Rand or use the 1,500 Rand on one of our leading lens enhancements. To qualify, simply purchase a comprehensive eye examination and prescription frame and lenses. Book online or call your nearest store today. Specsavers for affordable eye care and a whole lot more. T's and C's apply.
Sibs, your free lattes. Thanks. Who's next?
Hi, can I also get free coffee?
Do you have a Woolies Black credit card?
No. Should I get one?
For sure. It's the most wanted credit card. It gets you cash back on shopping, free Woolies online delivery, and 2 free coffees monthly. Just apply at woolworths.co.za/apply or on the app. If you get it by 30 September, you'll get 2,000 Rand in Woolies threshold vouchers.
Okay. T's and C's apply. Woolworths Financial Services, an authorized FSP and registered credit provider. FSP MCRCP 49.
So why should I use We Buy Cars if I want to sell my vehicle?
Because We Buy Cars buys cars.
But will I get the right price?
Of course. We Buy Cars buys thousands of vehicles and knows exactly what every vehicle is worth. Their buyers deliver exceptional service and pay you immediately.
And how do I know what they'll pay for my vehicle?
It's easy. Visit webuycars.co.za or use the We Buy Cars app. Follow the simple steps and voila, you'll know your car's value in no time. We Buy Cars. Quick, easy, the best.
Welcome to another episode of Hey Duck, Riddle Me This!
Okay, Duck. 5 people share a house with 1 bathroom. A uses it before B, but after C. D uses it before E, but after B. Now tell me, what should they use to clean and disinfect the bathroom after all is said and done?
Mac. That's right! Mac Thick Bleach and Cream Cleaner. Anything else is just wrong.
People always say that time is money, but they never tell you how much time equals how much money. Well, at Lula, we'll tell you right now that 24 hours equals up to 5 million Rand. Yep, you heard right. At Lula, you can get up to 5 million Rand in funding for your business in as little as 24 hours. So if your business needs access to funds, and time is money, don't delay. Visit lula.co.za today and make cash flow.
Previously on Marawa Sports Worldwide.
Stellenbosch hit the front.
Alicia calling us from KZN. Alicia, good evening.
I'm good, sir. I'm good. No, I'm not good. No. Hey, cheers. I never thought we'd miss Rulani so early. It's too early for Mr. Rulani, but we miss Rulani now. The kind of football we play, it's not the Sundowns way. I think Mangoba is trying to change everything, firstly, and I think he's trying to convince Mr. Fleming that I can do better than Rulani with a different style.
I'm coming on a different style.
It's too early to change what Rulani left. A foundation was laid by Rulani for him, and then now he's trying to change that. It's too early to do that.
Hashtag MSW. Hashtag MSW.
Well, today he becomes the top story of the day. Hey, the story, the journey of Alvin Naicker, producer, broadcast consultant, director, sports fanatic, you name it. That's what he is. And that's what he hopes other people can learn to be if their journey directs them in this way. And I'm sure a lot of people that are listening to the show, especially down in KZN, are saying, yeah, man, that's how it chats with boy who's done so well. The international stage has recognized them and has given him his dues as well. I just got a message now from somebody who is a very close friend of cricket. He says, what an awesome guest that you have. Best in the business. Also someone that I've learned so much from on the technical side of broadcasting. Also the amount of young people that he has given opportunities to and have gone on to become superstars on the field and off the field. He is a true superhero and a proper unsung hero in the world of sport and broadcasting. Would you hazard a guess in terms of who sent that message?
Wow. I'm humbled, but hopefully he's got my bank details.
Well, you might have the cash there at the moment. That's Altaf Kazi.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh, great guy. He's top guy. Altaf, you and my Christmas wish list, mate.
Thanks, Altaf. AK. Much travel these days, man. But obviously a man who, he's a completely different story. We'll chat about him in another day. Your rise in prominence, or maybe let's say your first foot into rugby, would have been how?
So I was working at Video Lab and I used to get called on the weekend because Mnet Supersport didn't have any full-time staff.
Yeah.
And we used to do the replays, but back in the day they had credits on the television after the game. So I used to record it on VHS and come home and pause the television to show it to my family. There's my name.
Oh, yes.
On the screen. I was like so proud, VT operator Alvin Naicker. I was very happy. And then the World Cup was coming and I used to read about it. I had no internet and the papers. And I'm like, I want to work on the World Cup. But then I realized it's the SABC. And I'm going to rush through the story because we're running out of time. I called the SABC. I'll never forget the phone number of the SABC outside broadcast department, 011 714 2020. And I got hold of a guy who was in charge. Somebody gave me his name. His name is Dave de Blanche. When I got hold of him, I said, I want to work on the World Cup. He says, as what? I said, I want to do the replays. He said, come and see me. He says, is that all you do? I said, yes, I'm a specialist replay operator. So back in the day, SABC used technicians that were guys fixing up the machines and doing stuff. But during the game, if the machine breaks, it was an analog world. Things broke all the time. They'd run to fix it, and I was the only guy doing the replays. So I think I impressed in the Super 10 tournament that year. And then he said to me, if we assess you and you do a good job, you'll work on the World Cup. And I got a call a week later, and people that you probably know, guys like Scott Seward and Rob Rogers that you worked with, they were the team, and then I got hired to work on the World Cup, and I did every game till the semi-final. I did the game in Durban, where France lost to South Africa, and I rolled a replay, where I thought Benazir scored the try at the time because I was not supporting South Africa in 1995. You can imagine where I was coming from. And I screamed out loud in the VT area, it's a try, and I got told, in no uncertain terms, it's not a try, eh? And that was my story in rugby. And then from then on, I just had a passion for working on rugby, and I learned the game, and I used to go to CNA, buy the book about the laws of the game, watch as much as I could on television. For anyone out there listening, the best way to learn sports broadcasting and what you should do in the storytelling, watch and learn and read. That's what I used to do.
Watch, learn, and read. I don't know if we're going to have time about this, though, because I saw something, I picked up on it earlier this morning and said, oh, that's quite ironic. Somebody had posted, though, that I think it might be time for broadcasters to take more ownership in fan education during matches. Far too many ambiguity and inconsistencies at the moment, and it's creating so much confusion. There's simple fixes that I'd like to see include align the stadium, shot clock, and the broadcaster. He says this one can't be difficult. Include former match officials or law experts in panels and or commentary teams. Include the law number in the graphic that comes up with that penalty is for fans to have a reference to use and check out. I screenshot this, so the author, please forgive me, I can't give you credit, but that is what I took, because I knew I was going to be chatting to you and say, maybe in the light of what happened over the weekend with Bongi's try and everything else that happened.
I think for me as a broadcaster, and I'm not speaking just as a Supersport director because I'm working for them at the moment, so what I'm saying is totally as an independent view. I believe that rugby is one of the few sports currently, it's too big an occasion to leave the responsibility to the television crew to work out certain things. I think if you look at VAR in football, for example, it happens independently. If you watch a Premier League, Sky does not get the responsibility of the VAR.
Yes.
It's independently. With Saturday's game, for example, the shot clock, if it's a graphics person and there's a problem with the clock, they wait for the referee. The referee's got a signal when they kick, because when you look at the game, the referee was talking to the player, then you don't quite know when he's actually started the signal for the countdown. And I think that was where the confusion lies. So, it can be a perception and interpretation of a situation. But unless there's direct communication, like what happens in cricket, there's a DRS, you have direct communication with the third umpire, they have a technician with them. For example, when there's a DRS appeal, in cricket, we put a clock up, and there's a countdown clock. The captain's got 15 seconds when he can signal that he wants to refer it. Unfortunately, in rugby, it's a bit grey, but we can fix it up. I mean, there's conversations that we will have, and it's a learning curve for us at the moment.
All right. Also, another message has just popped up here. It says, one word to describe that lad, in inverted commas, Picasso. He simply took the canvas and painted right from the beginning. I have privilege enough to thank you to break bread with that young man and share some of his travels. Legendary cat, onwards and upwards, Alvin. That is from Fortune, who is down in Durban. So, yeah.
Is it Quinton?
No, not Quinton Fortune.
Another Fortune.
Yeah,
okay.
A different type of Fortune. Quinton is too close to Man United.
Yeah.
So we forget that. I want to take you back quickly. This will be wrong of me not to. I want to go back to something that made international headlines. 2018.
Yes.
Sandpaper Gate.
Oh.
You remember that. You can't not remember that. I mean, it was headlines all over the place. And you've made great television when the BBC, Sky, CNN, whoever, Al Jazeera in their news headlines, they are running with that because it becomes a scandal. There's an independent panel investigating. It goes back to Australia. They appoint a different independent panel to try and investigate what has gone on. And the person who was directing was yourself. So I want to know, at what point did you start to target Cameron Bancroft and say, something dodge is happening on the field? I need to zoom into this little action.
So I have to correct you. I didn't target anybody.
No. But I'm just saying.
But the word target can be misconstrued.
It can be misplaced.
Yeah. So I think, look, firstly, it started, that was the third test. So the first test, there was a lot of shenanigans between the two teams. It was quite South Africa were one of the top 2 teams in world cricket in test matches at the time. We had a serious team.
Yeah.
So did the Aussies. And so the battle for the top spot was, really at a high level. But the banter between the two teams went beyond the boundaries. It was like that. What happened walking up the stairs in the change room? We had the CCTV cameras. We saw what had happened.
Yeah.
Then it moved on to Port Elizabeth. But remember, the Ashes was just before they came to South Africa. So everyone knew there was something going on. But truth be told, it was actually the cameraman that kept telling us the ball's reverse swinging up to 20 overs. Now, if you look at that series, Dale Steyn, most of the time, he gets his wickets in the latter part of the ball getting over because he gets reverse swing.
Yeah.
But the Aussies were reverse swinging the ball at 20 overs. In South African conditions, that's a bit unusual. So 2 of the spin vision, or what we call super slow-mo cameramen, they kept telling us it's the ball's reverse swinging. We're like, okay. And then we had a shot of David Warner. He knew that we were watching him, actually, not Bancroft.
Yeah.
So he put the plasters on his hand and he wrote his wife's name and he kept putting his hand at the back. And so the camera zoomed in, but he was actually detracting from the fact that they then had moved on to someone else. This was accidentally found in Cape Town, where the cameraman just stayed. Because what we do, because we get accused of like a foreign team coming and we only focus on them, we generally just follow where the ball goes in Test cricket, when the ball goes around. We just cut. If you're not even taking it live, it's on a replay. So the cameraman stayed with Bancroft. What had happened is he panicked because the cameraman stayed on him. We played the replay. And he saw it on the big screen. Then he takes the sandpaper out of his pocket and he puts it inside his jocks. But it was yellow. When the umpire went to him, he took out the glasses case, which was black. So we did a split screen, yellow and black. He said, well, that's not. And then everything unfolded. There's a reaction from the bench, from the coach to the 12th man, everything. And then they cracked by looking at the visuals on screen.
Yeah.
And that's what had happened. So it wasn't like a direct intention to go and find it. We just followed the storyline, and then we furthered the storyline. And that's how it ended.
Sure. That's crazy, though. But just the amount of airtime it received.
Yeah.
It was proper because, cricket has been trying to root out any form of what I would call corruption on the field. A way to try and influence an outcome of a game. They don't, and that is why, coach resigned after that.
CEO.
Yeah, captain had to fall on his sword as well, although he was saying he's not going to resign or get off the position. But I'm just saying that it all happened within a period of time where you had to lead and say, what on earth do we do with this mountain of evidence that is just building up in front of us?
Yeah, I think it was a tough one because I remember the umpire at one stage telling me, do you mind not showing it? And then my response to the umpire, I can say now he's retired. You do what you have to do and we do what we have to do. And we continue the story. But I think for me what was quite difficult to actually then consume was when I saw the guys on the news channels a day or two later, watching Steve Smith breaking down was quite like, that was not our intention.
Yeah.
We didn't realize, I think, when it had happened that it was treated in such a manner in Australia. Whereas, like, South African team has been nailed a few times for certain things, and it wasn't such a big rah-rah in South Africa. But because in Australia, the Australian captain is treated almost second to the Prime Minister, the way they deal with the Australian cricket team.
And that is what the Prime Minister at the time
Correct. Everyone
also actively took part in this. All right, just a quick one, Alvin.
Good evening, Rob. I just want to say that I think my mind will never, ever, the picture of the 2018 World Cup will never, ever leave my mind, because I had never seen such a thing. What was done on that build-up and the direction that we saw there, it's something that I don't think I'll ever forget. It's stuck on my mind. It's so vivid. It was something truly amazing, and I just wish him well. And it's just unfortunate that because he's behind the scenes, so we hardly ever hear about him, but may he continue with the good work that he's done and the memories that he keeps on giving us as a country.
Yeah, check him out on the YouTube channel, man. He looks international.
Good evening, Rob, and good evening to Alvin. Rob, I just want to find out from Alvin regarding broadcasting of soccer matches in the PSL. Particularly, we don't seem to be using more cameras just to give that story, particularly of the star player in that game, as you would ordinarily see in the EPL or La Liga, where you'll see a camera possibly focusing on Mbappe just to see what he reacts in certain moments, even when he's off the ball. I'm not sure if it's something that in a South African perspective we're not focusing on, or it's something that is deliberately been left out in the broadcasting of soccer matches. Just want to hear your views around that.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's a very good question. I think what we got to look at is a new season coming up. I think SuperSport and its broadcast partner, the free-to-air broadcaster, the SABC, have got great plans coming up with new sponsors coming on board. They're very excited about telling the story of football. I think we just got to wait for the story to unfold. What we need to do is build more local heroes. Talking about Mbappe and talking about, Ronaldo's and all that, they already made names. We need to find who are the next generation of South African footballers or foreign players playing in the South African League. And that's where I think we need to look at it carefully with our talent and football producers and unearth their talent.
And I think just to cap it, because we are out of time, is that you, again, in accordance to the work that you had done in local football, you were given a prestigious award by the chairman of the Premier Soccer League, the Chairman's Award, which is his discretion to you for what you had brought to football, its coverage, and. And for that and more, we salute you. I've asked you again that you need to come back here, sir, so we can do more of this, because now the messages are coming through. Says, please pass my regards to Alvin. Those of us who have worked with him call him Alvin the Magician. He is a director extraordinaire, storytelling through sport. Georgina, thank you so much indeed for that. One word to one person, then we chase you out.
I just want to do a quick shout out to my family, to my wife, Juliana, to my daughter, Elvina, my son-in-law, Junaid, who I spend all my time with when I'm not working. But most importantly, my little Ava Grace, who loves you and she listens to you every day, Robert. So to Ava Grace, I hope you play a good tune. Thank you.
Oh, Ava Grace. Thank you for gracing us with your presence.
#MSW live now on 947 Vuma FM, Rise FM, and Soweto Live at the same time. #MSW.